Well, it's great to be with you again today. I hope that you're having a good day so far. Let's go ahead and get organized. For your materials today, a couple of activities. Activity 4.2 is the outline. You can continue filling that in during the lesson. Activity 4.4 is foreign products at home, and we're going to work on some of that together during our lesson today. Also, you'll need a large box or laundry basket. That's just something to put items in during the lesson. On our agenda, we're going to start with a review as usual. Our main topic today is manufacturing. We do have the Geographer's Corner today, and then we're going to end with a scavenger hunt, whatever time we have remaining. Our main idea today: construction and manufacturing convert raw materials into usable products. And your goals today: to distinguish the two types of secondary industry, identify 3 revolutionary periods in the development of industry, and also to define technology. Okay, so we're going to be very busy today. Let's go ahead and get started with our chapter verse. Genesis 1:27 through 28. Go ahead and read along with me. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. All right, now we're going to start with a review, and we're going to cover some of the things that we've learned since we started our chapter a couple of lessons ago. Man's hard work to earn a living is known as industry. The blank requires man to subdue the earth. Dominion mandate. Primary industries extract blank from the earth. Natural resources. Minerals are solid blank with definite chemical composition. Crystals. More blank is mined each year than all the other metals combined. Iron. A blank is a mixture of 2 or more metals. An alloy. An alloy. Steel is the blank most important alloy. The world's most important alloy. Phosphates, nitrates, and potash are examples of fertilizers. Coal is used to generate most of the world's electricity. And here's our last one. Fossil fuels are a source of energy. A source of energy. Now, to summarize what we've learned so far, our primary industries extract natural resources from the earth. They are agriculture, fishing, forestry, and mining. Now today we're moving on to secondary industries. We want to look at our chart on page 61 in your textbook. Here are the primary industries that we just learned about. Today we're moving on to secondary industries, construction and manufacturing. Now, based on those categories, construction and manufacturing, what do you think secondary industries do? Primary industries extract natural resources from the surface of the earth. And it's kind of hard just based on those two to formulate a definition of secondary industries. You might have an idea in your mind, but secondary industries actually take raw materials, and those raw materials are the natural resources that are extracted by the primary industries. So those are referred to as raw materials. They take those from the primary industries, and they changed them into a useful form. For example, if you just have a lump of bauxite ore or aluminum ore, it's not really going to be very helpful. So the secondary industries are going to take that aluminum and make it into something useful. And there are two types of secondary industry, as you saw on our chart earlier. Those are construction and manufacturing. Now, just a couple things about construction. We are going to spend the bulk of our time on manufacturing today, but man has been involved in construction for a very long time. The Bible records the very first of man's efforts to construct. Adam's son Cain built the first city, Genesis 4:17. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. So Cain is the first builder recorded in the scripture in Genesis 4:7. He built the first city. Then after that, well, the Bible doesn't really tell us a lot about how he built it or give us a description of it. We have a little more information about the first great structure that's recorded in scripture, which is, can you guess? The Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel. And this is recorded in Genesis 11. So just flip over here a few pages. Genesis 11 verses 3 and 4. And they said one to another, "Go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. And they said, "Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." And so you're probably familiar with that Bible record about the Tower of Babel. And many Bible scholars believe that the tower might have been a ziggurat. And a ziggurat, the architecture was developed actually by the Babylonians. They were commonly made of mud brick. They had usually 4 to 7 stories. 4 and 7 were the most common numbers of stories, and they could stand up to 300 feet high. And man has continued building. The Great Pyramid is another famous structure that has been around for since ancient times, for hundreds of years. The Egyptians actually used cut stone to build the Great Pyramid. And originally it was 482 feet high, and it was encased in limestone, quite a feat for such a long time ago. The Romans also were great builders. They used cement to build their Colosseum around 72 AD. It was over 160 feet high. It had 80 different entrances, and it could hold more than 50,000 spectators. Coming up to more modern times, this Itaipu Dam in Brazil, it's in Brazil and Paraguay. It's almost 5 miles long. It's got a 1/4 of a mile spillway, and it's 738 feet high, produces 12,000 megawatts per second of electricity. This modern construction is the Severn Bridge in England, and this suspension bridge located over the Severn River, which joins England and Wales, is 16,955 feet long. That's just over 3 miles long. The main span is 1,496 feet, and the pylon height is 449 feet. The CN Tower is another amazing construction of man. It's in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's the tallest freestanding skyscraper in the world at 1,815 feet. And the construction crews used 80 miles of cable and 53,000 cubic yards of concrete, enough to cover 30 football fields 1 foot deep with concrete. So quite a feat. Man has really progressed. Really since ancient times, man has been building magnificent structures. The ziggurats are pretty magnificent in their own rights, considering all the technology that we have today. And still, even the pyramids, man can't really figure out exactly how the ancient man was able to construct such buildings. But man has progressed and continues to build cities and buildings and homes and all kinds of monuments that are useful and some that are just decorative. But we are going to spend most of our time today on manufacturing. That is the other division of secondary industry. Now, manufacturing originally meant to make by hand, but it has come to mean big businesses and machines that turn raw materials into new products. So manufacturing makes new products. And these large modern businesses where most work is done by machines rather than by hand actually owe their existence to the Industrial Revolution. This was a period of radical change in industry. That's what the term revolution means here. It doesn't mean a war, but just means a great change. It took place from about 1750 to 1850 in Britain, and it began in the textile industry. And one important facet of that was steam-powered machines, which allowed fewer people to produce more work in a shorter amount of time. So it was more efficient. The machinery allowed them to be more efficient. And since that time, industry has just continued to go through major changes. Two we want to look at in particular. One has to do with technology, sometimes referred to as the technological revolution. And this is actually the application of modern science to industry. So man has learned things about chemistry, in the area of physics, and also in the area of biology. They've taken that knowledge and applied it to industry. The real key has been the harnessing of electricity, and that just allowed industry to take off in the mid-19th century, and new industries were able to be developed. In particular, the automobile and the airplane are some of the new industries that were developed during that time period. Another revolution that we want to focus on is the information revolution, sometimes referred to as the information revolution. It's also known as the computer age and the electronic age. And this revolution featured the application not of science but of advanced technology to industry. And technology like computer chips, robotics, and just computers in general, this led us to what we now have in the United States, a post-industrial society. And post we can think of as after industry. So what we mean is we still have industry, but most people today don't have to work in the primary and secondary industries. They don't have to work on the farm or in the factories. Most people in the United States are able to work in other industries, which we're going to be studying in another lesson. At this point, we want to take a moment to look at a particular industry in our Geographer's Corner.
Hello! With all my expeditions, I knew I'd need to learn about fuel. Fuel makes things go, and I sure want to go. You know, money is rather like fuel, and it helps me go, too. And I just know you're excited about fueling my trip. Oh, speaking of fueling, I found this wonderful flowchart today while I was out. It shows the processes petroleum goes through to become various products, including fuel. See, that's what a flowchart does. Shows the general movement or flow of products through production. You can see here how it starts out as crude oil, is heated, and then goes to a fractioning column. From there, different chemicals separate from the oil. Sulfur is then extracted, and a few final products are formed. One being jet fuel, while other things are processed or refined more. For instance, the oil could continue through the catalytic cracking and have some chemicals added, then go through the fractioning column and the blender, coming out as aviation gasoline. You can see why I'm very interested in this process. But the importance of this tool lies in its ability to show the different paths of processes. See how the arrows depict all possible paths. This flowchart also uses color to show things. For instance, all the yellow boxes represent where the oil goes through some sort of chemical treatment. You can also see how the colors at the top of the chart are lighter than the ones at the bottom. This depicts how the chemicals at the bottom of the chart are heavier. An invaluable tool, especially when it displays such worthy subjects. I just hope you become as interested in this whole fueling process as I am.
All right, now that you have an idea of how the flow chart is going to work, we're going to use it to discover some more particular information from the chart. And the processes shown by the chart begin with crude oil. And crude oil is a dark liquid that comes from the ground. It's oil that has not been refined. So think of someone being crude, they're not refined. So it's raw. It's a raw material. And it is used to make many different products. And as you learn, the coloring of the chart reflects the different processes used to refine the crude oil. So at the refinery, the three processes shown on this chart are distillation or evaporation. They boil the crude oil until it begins to separate. So distillation uses evaporation to separate chemicals. That's shown in orange. Extraction uses filters to remove chemicals. That's shown in green. And then chemical processes obviously use chemicals to actually change the form of the product, and that is shown in yellow. And we also see that many products result, those are marked in bold, including petrochemicals. Petrochemicals are chemicals derived from petroleum. See, petroleum chemicals or natural gas. And they're all different kinds of products. Plastics, fibers for textiles, synthetic rubber, dyes, medicines, paints, fertilizers, and yes, even perfumes are petrochemicals. And petrochemicals are also used in many personal care products. And I brought a few examples with me. I just dug around on my desk to see what I could find. Some chapstick. So you'll notice on the chart lubricating things. So that makes your lips nice and smooth. And then two others are hand lotions to lubricate our hands. So I didn't have much else here, but you might want to check around at home and see what ingredients you see listed. I was trying to remember what ingredient. Petrolatum. You can hear the petroleum kind of sound in that ingredient that's in that particular hand lotion. All right, now let's go ahead and look at our chart then. And we want to use this to answer the questions that are there on page 71. And just a reminder, the color, keep in mind the color coding. It's lighter for the lighter products. Look at gases and vapors up here, and then heavier products, residues at the bottom. Here's our lubricating that I was just talking about. But actually petrochemicals are the ones that we saw in the chapsticks and the lotions. All right, now our first question, what is the heaviest product on the chart? Remember, our heavy products are toward the bottom. Residues, the very bottom, asphalt. So that is our heaviest product. What chemicals must be extracted in refining jet fuel? Okay, see our jet fuel right here. Sulfur extraction. Sulfur is the chemical being extracted. What two products require a blender? Okay, the blender is shown there in purple. So here's your blender. two arrows showing two products in bold, aviation gasoline and automobile gasoline. Name three products that do not need to go through any chemical treatment. There are more than three there, but see if you can find just three. Okay, the most obvious three are going to be right here because they're kind of grouped together. They didn't have to go through any yellow. Jet fuel, diesel oil, and fuel oil, such as some of the fuel oils. Then we also have our lubricating oil, wax, and asphalt that did not have to come through any yellow sections. And petrochemicals. So that's a little trickier one, but if you follow the arrows all the way to petrochemicals, we don't flow through any yellow on our flow chart. Okay, and one final question to help you make sure you understand how to use the flow chart. What is the only example of a chemical that returns to the stage it came from? Okay, that is going to be lubricating oil. I might not have given you enough time if you haven't had a chance to kind of glance over everything on the chart, but here is lubricating oil, and we end up with lubricating oil after the solvent recovery and dewaxing. So lubricating oil is the only one there. Oh, we have one more question, our thought question. Why do fuel oils appear twice as a final product? And if you need to, you can pause the program if I've been rushing you too much. Okay, fuel oils, we see here 27%, and we also see here. It's basically just different processes used to get to the fuel oil. So you could say there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's also more than one natural resource that manufacturers can use to come up with many products, just like they did with the crude oil. For example, this lump of coal. Heating coal isn't the only use. If coal is heated in a vacuum under pressure, it produces the fuel coke, but also several useful chemicals. For example, naphthalene, that's used to make dyes, lubricants, explosives, and a lot of other products. Then creosote, you've probably seen before, that's what they coat onto the telephone poles and railroad ties to keep them from rotting. So if you've leaned up against one and you've got that black junk on you, that's what that is. Coal tar is a very sticky substance. It remains after they process the coal, and it's especially used for roofing buildings. We used to always tar our garage roof, get up there in the summer on the hottest day because you want it to dry, not on a rainy day, and put that black tar down to seal the roof. But most items manufactured from petroleum or coal are considered non-durable. Manufacturing industries are actually categorized according to the lifespan of their products. And the two categories are non-durable and durable. First of all, non-durable products generally last less than a year. They're the ones that are fairly inexpensive that people use for everyday life. And they have 8 primary sources. Food, we need that for life. It's not extremely expensive, especially if you compare it to something like a house. And we need that. It doesn't last very long. We usually eat it within a week or two. Tobacco, leather, rubber, chemicals, fossil fuels like petrochemicals, and wood pulp, things like paper are made from that, and textiles, fibers that can be woven like wool, cotton, things to make clothing. The other industries create what we call durable products, and those products are going to endure. They're durable, and they're going to last more than a year, and they're used for building things like homes, furniture, machines, equipment, okay, things that are going to last. And they have 5 primary sources: lumber, stone, clay, glass, and metals. And many manufacturers of durable products rely on other manufacturers to provide them with materials. For example, the car industry. The automobile industry must depend on the steel industry, the glass industry, textiles, plastics, rubber industries. All of those provide different parts that the automobile industry needs to manufacture a car. So many of those depend on each other. for their businesses. Now we're going to take a moment for our scavenger hunt. If you have your laundry basket, is what I'm trying to say, or box handy there. Here is our list of items, foreign products at home. You're going to pause the program. We're going to look just right now at the non-durable manufacturing. I believe that's all we'll have time for. And as quickly as you can, grab your basket and run around and collect those items. So you want me to pause the program and get started. Okay, did you find everything pretty quickly? I found everything but aspirin, either around here or at home. So I'm just going to look through. I'm not going to take time to write it down, but you can be looking through yours. If you didn't find something, you can write down what I found. This is a dress made in Korea. Doesn't say. Maggie London, made in Korea. Here's the t-shirt, made in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Pavo is the company there. Here is the tie, and it does not have a label on it. So some things don't. You don't know where they're from. Here's a toy. Fiesta Concession Corporation, made in China. It's another toy. D24 dart gun, made in China. Looks like fun. Here's our basket, also made in China. Doesn't say who made it, who it's made by. Here's our peanut butter, Hunt Wesson Company in Fullerton, California. Flour, White Lily from Knoxville, Tennessee. And the book here, let's see, Allen and Bacon from the USA. Tuna, Starkist Company, Newport, Kentucky, my home state. The belt, I remember this is, I've looked at this before, this is made in Guatemala. Doesn't say what brand. And then this rug, my dirty rug from home, is from India. Okay, so we have quite a variety of countries represented here with our non-durable manufacturing items. And then as part of your assignment, you'll want to complete that scavenger hunt, dig around for those other things there at home, and finish filling that in. So let's look now at your assignment. You also need to read the section that we discussed today, pages 70 through 72. Complete the section review on page 72. And complete your activity 4-4. Your durable manufacturing, you want to hunt up those things. And then also, there's a section that's kind of opposite of that, where they give you the country, and you need to look around and see if you can find something made in that country. It should be a little easier because after you've already done your durable and non-durable, which we just did, and durable, you'll have a list of a lot of countries already. Then you only have to hunt something down for the countries that remain. You might be surprised to find out how many different countries you have represented there at home and what those countries are. Now let's see if you found the answer to our where in the world question. Where can you get reindeer sausage on your pizza? In Iceland, the Domino's pizza there has reindeer sausage pie on its menu. New question for next time. What country is the world's largest supplier of cork?